All right, you should have just finished a review test. It should be Monday. Finished a review test, and we're getting ready for a unit test at the end of this week. So what I'm going to do is very quickly, you had 8 questions. I'm going to very quickly go through and explain those 8 questions. Okay, we got Mateo is draining a pool at a rate of 1/8 of a gallon of water every 1/2 hour. If he continues to drain the pool at this rate, how much water will he be drained in 1 hour? So remember, I've talked a whole lot about setting up proportions. So we're talking about 1/8 of a gallon, and we're talking about 1/2 of an hour. So we got gallons and hours. So over here, I need gallons and hours. Well, this says 1 hour. So here's my 1, and then I've got my x. So I cross multiply and divide. So I've got 1/2 x. We should be able to do these in our sleep by now. And then 1/8. 1/8 times 1 is 1/8. So then all you have to do, I think most of you know by now, but to punch the fraction into your calculator, we divide both sides by 1/2. And we got 1 ABC8, that's how you put in 1/8, divided by 1 ABC2, that's how you put in 1/2. So our answer would be D, which is 1/4. My pen's about to die. So then we've got Tony walked 3.5 miles in 7/8 of an hour. At this rate, how many miles can he walk in 1 hour? So again, the 2 main things we're talking about, there's lots of different ways to do these problems. I'm just showing you what I think is the easiest. 7/8, and that's hours. So we got miles over hours. So over here, we still want miles over hours. And this says how many miles can he walk in 1 hour? So 1 hour is going to go on the bottom. So we got 7/8 x equals 1 times 3.5 is going to be 3.5. So we're going to divide both sides by 7/8. Well, excuse me, I'm writing that backwards. 7/8. So we got 3.5. So the way we put that in our calculator is 3 ABC1 ABC2. That's showing you 3 units, so 3 wholes and then 1/2. So 3.5 divided by 7 ABC8. And we've got 4. So we're still good to go. So now if we keep on rolling, I'm trying to go through these as fast as I can. We're talking about Richard uses, says 15.5 cups of flour to make 2 3/4 dozen cakes. How many cups of flour does Mr. Richard need to make a dozen of cakes? So we're talking about flour, and we're talking about dozens of cakes. So I'm going to put DC for dozens of cakes. So 115.5 and 2 3/4. And this, since that says dozen cakes and this says dozen cakes, I don't need to change it to 12 or anything because it's talking about the same thing. So A is just going to be 1. So 1 dozen cakes is going to go here, and then we have X. So, whoops, excuse me. So again, cross multiply and divide. 2 3/4 X equals 115.5. So then divide both sides by 2 3/4. So we'll punch in our calculator 115, and then ABC1, ABC2 divided by 2, ABC3, ABC4. All right. So then I get 42, which is C. Okay, I'm still going to stick with proportions. We got 2 1/3 pounds of nails to secure 3.5 yards of fence. So we're talking about nails, and we're talking about fence. So then it wants to know how many yards. So we're still talking about the same measurement. So we're still talking about yards of fence for 1 pound of nails. So this would be 1 pound of nails, and then this would be X because it wants to know how many yards of fence. So our fence is where our X is going to be. So we've got 2/3 X equals, and that's going to give us 3.5. So then we're going to divide both sides by 2/3. So 3.5. I could put 3.5, really, because that's the same thing as 3.5 divided by 2/3, and I get 5 1/4. And what did I punch in wrong? I punched in 1/3, didn't I? Let me see what I did wrong. 3 ABC1 ABC2, because none of those answers were up there. Divided by 2 ABC3. Well, I did it wrong again. What did I do wrong again? 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 2/3 equals 3 1/2. Have I got all my measurements right? Oh no, right there's my mistake. That says 3 1/3, and I did 3 1/2. Okay, so there's my mistake. Y'all may make those mistakes sometimes too. Unfortunately, I make a lot of them. So now I've got 2 1/3 divided by 2 ABC3. Well, I still punched it in wrong. Gracious. All right. Okay. So now we're on a roll. Finally get my numbers right. Okay. Sorry, I'm switching pages on us here. I believe we did 4, so now we have 4 more. So we got a group of students and teachers going on a field trip. 1/9 of the group will fit on 1/3 of a bus. And we want to know how much for the entire group. So we're talking about the group, and we're talking about buses. So it says 1/9 of the group. So the group would be 1/9. It says will fit on 1/3 of a bus. And the question is, how much is needed to transport the entire group? The entire group would be one group. And then we have X. So I end up with 1/9 X equals, I multiply this diagonal and I get 1/3. So now I need to divide both sides by 1/9. So I've got 1/3 divided by 1/9. And I end up with 3, which is C. Now this one's a little wordy. Got a lot of different things going on in this problem. It says we got a local car wash is opened 8 hours each day. Okay, it uses 1/3 of a container of wax for each car. So it doesn't need a whole container for one car. All right. The car washes an average of 8 1/2 cars per hour. How many containers of wax are going to be needed for one day? Well, if we're open 8 hours and we wash 8 1/2 cars per hour, we need to do 8 times 8 1/2. So if we do 8 times 8 1/2, same thing as 8.5, that means that we wash 68 cars. Well, there's lots of different ways to do this. What makes the most sense to me is I need 1/3 of a container. So that means I need, with one container, I can wash 3 cars. So then divide that by 3, and that tells me that I need 22 point, there's a bunch of 6's and 7's. Now, if I want to change that to a fraction, if I hit second and this arrow key, that takes me to 22 and then 2/3. Okay? 2 more to go. 1/2 of a roll of wallpaper covers 1/10 of a wall. How many rolls of wallpaper are needed to cover half of the wall? Same concept, just lots of fractions. I know y'all typically don't like fractions. 1/2 of a roll of wallpaper. So we got 1/2 of a roll of wallpaper. So actual wallpaper covers 1/10 of a wall. So 1/10, and that's talking about covering the wall. How many rolls of wallpaper are needed to cover half of the wall? So the wall goes on the bottom, so we need half to also go on the bottom, and then we have X. So 1/10 X equals 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4, I do believe. And so now we're going to divide both sides by 1/10. And that tells us that we're going to need 2 1/2 rolls of wallpaper, which is B. Okay? So now, one more. It says a box contains 13 3/4 ounces of spaghetti, and a serving is 1 1/4 ounces. How many servings are in one box of spaghetti? You could do a proportion, or I could just take my 13 3/4 ounces, that's my box, and divide it by how much is a serving. So I could just do 13 ABC 3 ABC 4 divided by 1 ABC 1 ABC 4. And then I get 11. So if you've got questions, let me know.